The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest building in the known universe. It floated in the empty space between three spiral galaxies. Over 10,000 species had sent their representatives here. They came to trade, to make peace, and to welcome new civilizations into their ancient alliance. Today was a special day. Humanity was coming. Council leader Vorthan stood at the center of the grand stage. He was a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His species, the Melvari, had led the council for 3,000 years. They were wise, they were patient. They had welcomed over 500 species into the alliance. Vorthan had never failed to bring a new species into the fold. The massive doors at the end of the hall opened slowly. Every alien in the room turned to look. Cameras from 1,000,000 worlds broadcast the moment live. This was history. Ambassador Yuna walked in first. She was a small human woman with black hair tied back in a simple style. Her eyes were calm and steady. She wore a plain, dark suit with no decorations. Behind her walked her advisor, a young man named Taeho. He carried a small tablet and nothing else. That was it. 2 humans, no guards, no weapons, no show of power. The aliens whispered to each other. Some species brought armies to their first council meeting. Others brought treasure ships filled with gifts. The humans brought nothing but themselves. Vorthan smiled with his thin lips. He liked this species already. They were humble. "Welcome, Ambassador Yuna," Vorthan said. His voice echoed through the hall. "Welcome, humanity. Today, you join the greatest alliance in the universe. Today, you become part of something bigger than yourselves." Yuna stopped at the center of the stage. She looked up at Vorthan. She looked at the thousands of alien faces watching her. She did not seem nervous at all. "Thank you for the invitation," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "We are honored to be here." Vorthan nodded with satisfaction. He raised one of his 4 hands and a holographic document appeared in the air between them. It glowed with golden light. "This is the Standard Integration Treaty," Vorthan explained. "Every species signs this treaty to join us. It is fair. It is balanced. It has worked for 3,000 years. The document floated toward Yuna. All she had to do was touch it and the treaty would be sealed. Humanity would become the 537th member of the Galactic Alliance. Yuna looked at the glowing document. She read it carefully. Taeho leaned close and whispered something in her ear. She nodded. Then she did something no species had ever done before. She pushed the document away. "No," Yuna said simply. The hall went completely silent. 10,000 aliens stared at her. Vorthan's 4 hands froze in the air. "I am sorry," Vorthan said slowly. "I do not understand." "Did you say no?" "Yes," Yuna replied. "I said no. We reject this treaty." Whispers exploded through the hall. Aliens spoke to each other in hundreds of different languages. The translators worked hard to keep up. Words like impossible and insane and mistake flew through the air. Vorthan raised his hands for silence. The hall slowly became quiet again. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding," Vorthan said carefully. "This treaty gives your species protection from all threats. It gives you access to technology that is millions of years ahead of your own. It gives you trade routes to 1,000,000,000 worlds. What more could you want?" Yuna shook her head. "We appreciate the offer, but the terms are not acceptable to us." Vorthan felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was confusion. He had not felt confused in over 200 years. "Not acceptable?" he repeated. "Ambassador, please explain. What part of the treaty troubles you?" "All of it," Yuna said calmly. The whispers started again, louder this time. Some aliens stood up from their seats. Others called out questions that the translators could not keep up with. Vorthan's assistant, a small green creature named Plix, rushed to his side. "Council leader," Plix whispered urgently. "This has never happened before. What do we do?" Vorthan did not know. For the first time in his long life, he did not know what to do. "Ambassador Yuna," Vorthan said, keeping his voice calm. "Perhaps you need more time to consider." The standard treaty is very generous. I assure you, every species has been happy to sign it. Every species is not humanity, Yuna replied. Teho stood quietly beside her. His face showed nothing. He simply watched and waited. Vorthan tried again. We can offer you additional benefits. Extra trading rights. Priority access to medical technology. Your species is young and small. We can help you grow. Yuna listened politely. Then she shook her head again. No, she said. But thank you for the offer. Now panic began to spread through the hall. Species that had never agreed on anything began whispering to each other. What was happening? What did the humans want? Were they planning something terrible? The Krixar delegate, a large insect creature, stood up from his seat. Council leader. This is an insult. They reject our generosity? They must be planning war. Sit down, Vorthan commanded. But his voice lacked its usual confidence. Yuna turned to look at the Krixar delegate. We are not planning war, she said. We simply do not accept these terms. Then what terms do you accept? Vorthan asked. He was almost pleading now. Yuna smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, but it made Vorthan feel even more confused. We will let you know, she said. When we decide. Then she turned and walked toward the great doors. Teho followed her without a word. The two humans walked out of the hall the same way they had walked in. Calm, quiet, unhurried. Behind them, the Galactic Council fell into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded that humanity be punished. Others demanded that they be stopped. A few species quietly prepared to leave, afraid of what might come next. Vorthan stood alone on the stage. He stared at the closed doors. In 3,000 years, no species had ever rejected the Standard Treaty. No species had ever walked away from the Council. Until today. What do they want? Plix asked in a trembling voice. Vorthan had no answer. He did not understand these humans at all. And for the first time in a very long time, the great council leader felt something he had forgotten existed. Fear. 3 days passed after humanity rejected the Standard Treaty. 3 days of emergency meetings. 3 days of arguments. 3 days of growing panic. Vorthan had not slept at all. His blue skin had turned pale from exhaustion. But he could not rest. Not when the entire council was falling apart around him. The humans had returned to their small ship. They did not leave. They did not explain. They simply waited in orbit around the council station, as if they had all the time in the universe. This made everything worse. They are playing games with us, shouted the Krixar delegate. His insect wings buzzed with anger. They want to see us suffer. They enjoy our confusion. Calm yourself, Vorthan said tiredly. We do not know what they want yet. Exactly, we do not know. And that is the problem. Vorthan could not argue with that. He called for the second meeting with the humans. This time, he prepared a new treaty, the Enhanced Integration Agreement. It offered humanity twice the benefits of the Standard Treaty. Better technology. More trading partners. A seat on the Minor Council. No species had ever received such a generous offer on their first contact. Ambassador Yuna walked into the meeting room with Teho by her side. She looked rested and calm. She looked like she had slept very well. Vorthan presented the new treaty with a smile. We have listened to your concerns, he said. This new agreement is much better. You will receive benefits that took other species centuries to earn. All we ask is your cooperation. Yuna read the document carefully. She passed it to Teho. He read it too. They whispered to each other in their strange human language. Then Yuna looked up at Vorthan. No, she said. Vorthan felt his heart sink. Ambassador, please. This is extremely generous. More generous than any offer we have ever made. We appreciate your effort, Yuna said politely. But the answer is still no. But why? Vorthan asked. He could not hide his frustration anymore. What is wrong with this treaty? What do you not like about it? Yuna tilted her head slightly. Council leader, with respect, that is not the right question. Then what is the right question? Yuna did not answer. She simply stood up and left the room. Teho followed her, pausing only to give Vorthan a polite nod. The doors closed behind them. Vorthan sat alone in the meeting room for a long time. His mind raced with questions. What did the humans want? What game were they playing? What could possibly be wrong with his offers? Over the next week, the panic spread like a disease through the council. Every species wanted to know what was happening. Every species had a different theory. The Melvari elders believed the humans were testing them. They suggested showing strength. The Vorix traders believed the humans wanted money. They suggested offering unlimited resources. The Fennec scholars believed the humans were simply crazy. They suggested leaving them alone. Vorthan tried everything. He offered the humans their own planet. They said no. He offered them a fleet of warships. They said no. He offered them access to the ancient libraries, which contained the knowledge of 1 billion years. They said no. 5 treaties. 5 rejections. Each time, Yuna remained calm and polite. Each time, Teho stood silently beside her. Each time, they walked away without explaining anything. The council was breaking apart. Species that had been allies for thousands of years began to argue with each other. They blamed each other for the human problem. They accused each other of secret deals with the newcomers. This is exactly what they want. The Krixar delegates screamed at the 15th emergency meeting. They are dividing us. They are weakening us. When we are at our weakest, they will attack. The humans have no military strength, another delegate pointed out. Their ships are primitive. Their weapons are basic. How could they attack us? Then why reject our treaties? The Krixar demanded. Why refuse our help? It makes no sense unless they plan something terrible. Vorthan tried to calm everyone down. But even he was beginning to wonder. What if the Krixar was right? What if the humans had some secret plan? He decided to meet with Yuna one more time. But this time, he would not offer anything. This time, he would simply ask. The meeting took place in a small private room. No cameras, no other delegates. Just Vorthan, Yuna, and Teho. Ambassador, Vorthan said quietly, I have led this council for 300 years. I have welcomed 500 species. I have seen everything. But I have never seen anything like you. Yuna listened without speaking. I am not asking you to sign anything today, Vorthan continued. I am simply asking you to help me understand. Why do you keep saying no? What do you actually want? Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She looked at Teho. Something passed between them. Some silent human communication that Vorthan could not read. Then Yuna turned back to Vorthan. Council leader, may I ask you a question first? Vorthan nodded. Of course. In all your treaties, in all your offers, have you ever once asked us what we could give to you? Vorthan blinked. What do you mean? You keep offering us things, Yuna said. Technology, resources, protection, ships, knowledge. You keep trying to give us more and more. But you never ask what we might offer in return. Vorthan frowned. You are a young species. A small species. What could you possibly offer to civilizations that are millions of years old? Yuna smiled that strange small smile again. That is exactly the problem, council leader. I do not understand. I know, Yuna said softly. But you will. She stood up and walked to the door. Teho followed her as always. Vorthan called after her. Ambassador. Wait. Please explain. Yuna paused at the door. She looked back at him with those calm, steady eyes. You have been in power for so long, she said. You have grown used to giving. You have forgotten what it feels like to receive. You see us as children who need help. You do not see us as equals who might help you. The door opened. When you learn to see us differently, Yuna said, come find us. We will be waiting. Then she was gone. Vorthan sat in the empty room. His 4 hands trembled slightly. He thought about Yuna's words. He thought about all his offers. He thought about how he had treated humanity from the very beginning, like children, like beggars, like lesser beings who needed saving. Was that the problem? Was human pride really so strong that they would reject everything just to be seen as equals? Vorthan did not know. But for the first time, he began to wonder if maybe he had been asking the wrong questions all along. Outside the meeting room, the council continued to panic. But inside Vorthan's mind, something new was beginning to grow. A tiny seed of understanding. The Galactic Council had never been so afraid. 2 weeks had passed since humanity first rejected the Standard Treaty. 2 weeks of chaos. 2 weeks of growing terror. Rumors spread faster than light itself. Some said the humans were building a secret weapon. Others said they had made a deal with the dark regions, where no council ship had ever returned. A few whispered that the humans were not even real, that they were illusions created by some ancient enemy to destroy the alliance from within. Vorthan heard all these rumors. He knew most of them were nonsense. But even nonsense could become dangerous when enough people believed it. The military species were the most afraid. The Krixar had moved their war fleet to the edge of council space. The Thornax had activated their ancient defense systems. Even the peaceful Phoenix had begun preparing escape routes. Everyone was getting ready for war. A war that might never come. A war with an enemy they did not understand. Vorthan decided to make one final attempt. He gathered the 12 wealthiest species in the council. Together, they created the ultimate offer. It was the most generous treaty in galactic history. Humanity would receive 100 garden worlds. They would receive technology that could extend human life by 1,000 years. They would receive unlimited access to the energy grids that powered civilization itself. They would receive a permanent seat on the High Council. They would receive everything. All they had to do was join. All they had to do was become part of the alliance. All they had to do was say yes. The meeting was held in the Crystal Chamber, the most beautiful room in the council station. Light from distant stars passed through the crystal walls and created rainbows that danced on every surface. Yuna arrived at the exact appointed time. Teho walked beside her as always. They looked at the rainbow lights with appreciation. They seemed to genuinely enjoy the beauty of the room. This gave Vorthan hope. Perhaps the humans were finally ready to accept. The 12 wealthy species presented their gifts one by one. The Melveri offered the 100 worlds. The Vorix offered the energy access. The ancient Primori offered the life-extending technology. Each gift was greater than anything humanity had ever possessed. When the presentation was finished, Vorthan stepped forward. He held the treaty document in all 4 of his hands. "Ambassador Yuna," he said solemnly, "this is everything. We have given you everything we have. There is nothing more we can offer. Please, for the sake of peace, accept this treaty." The room fell silent. Every being held their breath. The rainbow lights danced on Yuna's calm face. She looked at the treaty for a long time. Longer than she had looked at any of the others. Teho stood beside her, his expression unreadable. Then Yuna looked up at Vorthan. Her eyes were soft but firm. "No," she said. The room exploded. The Krixar delegate jumped up and drew his ceremonial blade. "This is war! They want war!" The Vorix traders began shouting about economic collapse. The Phoenix scholars fled toward the exits. The Thornax military commander activated his communication device and began calling for his fleet. "Stop!" Vorthan shouted, but no one listened. The council was falling apart right before his eyes. Yuna remained completely calm. She stood in the center of the chaos like a stone in a storm. Teho stepped slightly closer to her, but even he showed no fear. "Why do you not run?" the Krixar demanded, pointing his blade at Yuna. "Are you not afraid we will destroy you?" Yuna looked at the blade. She looked at the Krixar's compound, eyes burning with rage. She did not step back. "No," she said simply. "I am not afraid. Your people have no army, no fleet, no weapons. We could wipe out your entire species in a day." Yuna nodded slowly. "Yes, you could. Then why do you keep rejecting us? Why do you make us so angry? Why do you not fear us?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. The chaos in the room began to settle. Everyone wanted to hear her answer. Because fear is not a good reason to join anything, Yuna said. And destruction is not a good reason to accept a treaty. The Krixar lowered his blade slightly. He did not understand, but her calm voice was doing something to him. Vorthan stepped closer. Ambassador, please, help us understand. We have offered you everything. Why is it not enough? Yuna turned to look at him. For the first time, Vorthan saw something in her eyes besides calm. He saw sadness. Council leader, she said softly. Do you remember what I asked you in our last meeting? Vorthan thought back. You asked if we had ever wondered what you could give us. Yes. And what was your answer? Vorthan felt shame rise in his chest. I said you were young and small. I said you had nothing to offer. Exactly. Yuna's voice was gentle but carried weight. You see us as beggars. You see us as children who need gifts. You offer us everything. But you never ask what we might offer in return. But what could you offer? The Vorax trader asked. We have everything already. Our civilizations are millions of years old. What could humans possibly give us? Teho spoke for the first time. Everyone turned to look at him, surprised by his voice. Perspective, he said. Fresh eyes. New ideas. Hope. The aliens murmured to each other. They did not understand. Yuna continued. When you give someone everything, you make them dependent. You make them weak. You make them owe you. This is not friendship. This is not alliance. This is control. Vorthan felt the truth of her words like a knife in his heart. We do not want to be controlled, Yuna said. We do not want to owe you. We want to stand beside you as equals. We want to give as much as we receive. We want true partnership. The room was completely silent now. Your treaties are generous, Yuna admitted. But they are designed for species who are desperate. Species who are weak. Species who will accept anything to survive. We are not desperate. We are not weak. And we will not accept anything less than true respect. She turned toward the door. When you are ready to see us as partners instead of beggars, she said, come find us. We will still be waiting. Yuna walked out of the crystal chamber. Teho followed her. The rainbow lights danced over their departing figures. Behind them, the council was silent. No one shouted. No one blamed anyone. For the first time in 2 weeks, there was no panic. There was only thought. Vorthan looked at the treaty in his hands. He had been so proud of it. He had thought it was the answer to everything. But now he saw it for what it really was. A gift for beggars, not a treaty for equals. He let the document fall from his fingers. It faded into light and disappeared. What do we do now? Plix whispered from beside him. Vorthan closed his eyes. He thought about everything Yuna had said. He thought about 3,000 years of welcoming new species. He thought about how he had always seen himself as a generous leader. But generosity without respect was just another form of power. We learn, Vorthan said quietly. We learn to see differently. It was the hardest thing he had ever said. But somehow, it also felt like the most important. 3 more days passed. But this time, the council did not panic. This time, they thought. Vorthan spent hours alone in his private chambers. He did not eat much. He did not sleep much. He simply sat and thought about Yuna's words. True partnership, equal respect, not charity, not control. These ideas were strange to him. The Galactic Council had existed for thousands of years. It had always worked the same way. Powerful species helped weaker species. Old civilizations guided young civilizations. Those who had much gave to those who had little. It seemed so noble, so generous, so right. But was it? Vorthan thought about all the species he had welcomed into the alliance. The Phoenix had been desperate, fleeing from a dying star. The Vorax had been poor, struggling to survive on a resource-empty world. The Krixar had been at war, losing badly to enemies on all sides. They had all accepted the standard treaty eagerly. They had all been grateful. They had all become loyal members of the council. But had they ever truly been equals? Vorthan realized with growing horror that the answer was no. Even after thousands of years, those species still followed the lead of the older civilizations. They still deferred to the founding members. They still acted like guests in someone else's house. Because that was how they had been treated from the beginning. The council had never created partners. It had only created followers. And humanity refused to follow. Vorthan finally left his chambers and walked to the observation deck. The great window showed the endless stars spreading out in all directions. Somewhere among those stars was Earth. Humanity's home. What makes them so different? Vorthan whispered to himself. A voice answered from behind him. May I join you, council leader? Vorthan turned. It was Elder Mora, the oldest member of the Primori. She was so ancient that no one knew her true age. Her body was mostly machine now, kept alive by technology that predated the council itself. Elder Mora, Vorthan said with respect. Of course. The old being moved slowly to stand beside him. Her mechanical eyes looked out at the stars. I have watched many civilizations rise and fall, Mora said. I have seen the birth of the council. I have seen it grow. I have seen it become what it is today. Vorthan waited. Mora rarely spoke, but when she did, her words carried the weight of ages. We began with good intentions, Mora continued. We wanted to help. We wanted to protect the young and the weak. We wanted to create peace in a universe full of war, and we succeeded, Vorthan said. The council has brought peace to thousands of worlds. Yes. But we also became comfortable. Mora's old voice was sad. We became used to power. We began to see helping others as our right, instead of our responsibility. We began to expect gratitude instead of partnership. Vorthan felt shame again. The humans see this. That is why they refuse us. Yes, they are young, but they see clearly. Mora turned her ancient eyes toward Vorthan. Do you know what makes humans different from every other species we have met? What? They do not fear us. Vorthan frowned. The Krixar said the same thing. He thought it meant they were planning war. Mora made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Krixar fears everything. That is why he sees enemies everywhere. But humans do not fear us, because they do not need us. Everyone needs help sometimes. Of course. But there is a difference between needing help and needing to be saved. Mora's mechanical hand pointed at the stars. Humans came to us from a small planet around an ordinary star. They had no advanced technology. They had no powerful allies. They should have been desperate, but they were not. No, because humans believe in themselves. They believe they can solve their own problems. They believe they can earn their own place in the universe. They do not want to be given anything they have not deserved. Vorthan thought about this. It was such a strange way of thinking. Most species that discovered the council were overjoyed. They saw all the wealth and power of the alliance and wanted to be part of it immediately. They did not care about earning their place. They just wanted to survive. But humans were different. What do you think we should do? Vorthan asked. Mora was quiet for a long time. The stars turned slowly outside the window. I think, she said finally, that the humans are offering us a gift. A gift we do not know how to receive. What gift? The gift of change. Mora's old eyes seemed to brighten. For thousands of years, we have done things the same way. We have grown comfortable. We have stopped learning. We have forgotten what it means to be truly challenged. And the humans challenge us. Yes, not with weapons, not with war, but with an idea. The idea that partnership must go both ways. The idea that respect cannot be given only from above to below. The idea that even the youngest civilization might have something to teach the oldest. Vorthan felt something shift inside him. It was like a door opening in his mind. A door he had not even known was there. I think I finally understand, he said slowly. We have been trying to give them what we think they need. But we never asked what they actually want. Yes, they want to be seen, not as children, not as beggars, but as equals who might have value we cannot yet imagine. Yes. Vorthan turned away from the window. His 4 hands were steady now. His mind was clear. I need to meet with Ambassador Yuna again, he said. But this time, I will not bring a treaty. I will not bring offers. I will bring only one thing. What? Mora asked. Vorthan smiled. It was the first real smile he had felt in weeks. A question. He left the observation deck and walked toward the communication center. His steps were quick and purposeful. The fear that had gripped the council for weeks seemed to fall away behind him. He did not know exactly what would happen next. He did not know if the humans would accept what he was about to offer. But for the first time, he felt like he was approaching them correctly, not as a benefactor to a beggar, not as a teacher to a student, but as one civilization reaching out to another, eager to learn what they might teach each other. It was terrifying. It was exciting. It was completely new. And somehow, it felt right. Vorthan sent a message to the human ship. It was only a few words. Ambassador Yuna. I would like to meet again. But this time, I have no offers. Only questions. Will you speak with me as an equal? The reply came almost immediately. Yes. We have been waiting for you to ask. The meeting room was simple. Plain walls. Plain chairs. A plain table between 2 sides. No crystal lights. No fancy decorations. No shows of power or wealth. Vorthan had chosen this room on purpose. He wanted everything to be equal. Yuna and Teho arrived exactly on time. They looked at the simple room and nodded with what seemed like approval. Then they sat down across from Vorthan. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was thoughtful. Finally, Vorthan leaned forward. Ambassador Yuna, I have spent the last 3 days thinking about everything you said. I believe I understand now. Thank you for watching. I have Ottoman stated, end quote. Tell me what you understand, Yuna said. Vorthan took a deep breath. For 3,000 years, the Council has helped younger species. We gave them technology. We gave them protection. We gave them everything they needed to survive. We thought we were being generous. Yuna nodded but did not interrupt. But we never asked what they could give us, Vorthan continued. We never considered that they might have value beyond what they could receive. We treated them as dependents, not as partners. And in doing so, we made them weaker. Go on, Yuna said softly. When you rejected our treaties, I was confused. I was angry. I was afraid. I thought something was wrong with you. But I was wrong. Something was wrong with us. Teho shifted in his seat. For a moment, Vorthan thought he saw the young human smile. We offered you charity when you wanted respect, Vorthan said. We offered you gifts when you wanted partnership. We looked down at you when we should have looked across at you. Yuna's eyes grew warm. You understand. Yes. And I am sorry. On behalf of the Council, I apologize for how we treated you. The words hung in the air. They were simple words, but they had never been spoken by a council leader before. Not to any species. Not in 3,000 years. Yuna bowed her head slightly. Thank you, council leader. Your apology is accepted. Now I have a question for you, Vorthan said. Not an offer, not a demand. Just a question. Ask. Vorthan met Yuna's eyes. What can humanity offer to the Galactic Council? The question was simple but revolutionary. In all the history of the Alliance, no founding member had ever asked a new species this question. It had always been the other way around. Yuna smiled. It was a real smile this time. Bright and full of hope. We can offer many things, she said. We can offer new perspectives. We have only existed for a short time. But sometimes young eyes see things that old eyes have forgotten. We can offer creativity. Humans are always creating new things, new ideas, new ways of solving problems. We can offer determination. When humans want something, we do not give up easily. What else? Vorthan asked, genuinely curious now. Teho spoke up. We can offer stories. Humans have been telling stories since we first learned to speak. Stories teach us about ourselves and each other. Stories help us understand things that pure logic cannot explain. And we can offer friendship, Yuna added. True friendship. The kind that does not keep score. The kind that gives and receives without counting the cost. The kind that stays strong even when times are hard. Vorthan felt something strange in his chest. It was not fear this time. It was not confusion. It was something warmer. I think, he said slowly, that those are very valuable things. They are. Yuna agreed. But they are not things that can be put into a treaty. They are not things that can be traded or measured. They can only be given freely. Between equals, Vorthan nodded. He understood completely now. Then we need a new kind of treaty, he said. Not the standard treaty. Not the enhanced treaty. Not the ultimate offer. Something new. Something that has never existed before. Something that has never existed before. Something new. Something that has never existed before. What kind of treaty? Yuna asked. Vorthan thought carefully. A treaty of equals. A treaty that does not list what one side gives and the other receives. A treaty that says both sides will learn from each other. Both sides will help each other. Both sides will grow together. Tejo leaned forward. Such a treaty would change everything. Every relationship in the council would need to be renegotiated. Yes, Vorthan said. It would be difficult. It would take time. Some species might resist. But I believe it is necessary. Why? Yuna asked. Vorthan looked at her with new respect. Because you have shown me that the old way was wrong. Generosity without respect is just another form of control. True partnership requires equality. If we want the council to survive for another 3,000 years, we must learn this lesson. The room fell silent again. But this time, the silence felt like the moment before dawn, like something new was about to begin. Yuna stood up and extended her hand. It was a human gesture. Vorthan had studied it before the first meeting. It meant agreement. It meant trust. Vorthan stood and reached out with one of his 4 hands. He wrapped it gently around Yuna's smaller human hand. Let us write a new treaty together, Yuna said. As equals. Yes, Vorthan replied. As equals. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. The council was creating a new kind of treaty. The first equal partnership agreement in galactic history. And humanity would be the first to sign it. Reactions were mixed. Some species celebrated. They had always felt like second-class members of the Alliance. Now they had hope for something better. Others were confused. They did not understand why the old ways needed to change. And some were angry. They had grown comfortable with power. They did not want to share it, as equals. But Vorthan did not care about the angry ones. He cared about the future. And for the first time in centuries, he believed the future could be better than the past. The signing ceremony was held in the Great Hall. Not because they needed the space, but because everyone wanted to witness history. 10,000 species watched as Yuna and Vorthan stood side by side. There were no golden lights this time. No impressive displays. Just 2 beings standing as equals, ready to begin something new. This treaty is not perfect, Vorthan announced to the assembly. It does not have all the answers. But it has one thing that all our previous treaties lacked. It has respect. True respect. For all parties. For all species. For all civilizations, no matter how old or how young. Yuna spoke next. Humanity is honored to be the first to sign this treaty. But we hope we will not be the last. We hope that someday, every member of this alliance will stand as equals. Not because they are powerful, not because they are wealthy, but because they are worthy of respect, simply for being who they are. Together, they touched the document. The Equal Partnership Agreement became law. The hall erupted in sounds that could only be described as joy. Different species expressed it differently. Some cheered. Some sang. Some simply stood in wonder. Tejo found Vorthan in the crowd afterward. The young human looked happy but tired. Thank you, Tejo said simply. For listening. For changing, Vorthan nodded. Thank you for being patient with us. For not giving up. We never considered giving up, Tejo said with a slight smile. We knew you would understand eventually. We just had to wait for you to ask the right questions. Vorthan laughed. It was a strange sound, coming from a being who had not laughed in centuries. You are a strange species, he said. Stubborn. Proud. Confusing. But I think we will learn much from each other. I think so too, Tejo agreed. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star, humans looked up at the sky. They did not know exactly what had happened. They did not understand all the politics and treaties, but they felt something. A sense of pride. A sense of possibility. A sense that their place in the universe had changed forever. They were no longer alone. They were no longer small. They were partners in something vast and wonderful. And it had all started with a single word. No. Sometimes, rejection is not the end of something. Sometimes, it is the beginning of something better. Something that could never have existed if someone had simply said yes. The humans understood this. And now, so did the galaxy.